Hello and welcome to today's edition of Political Voice. I'm Kayla Abraham. There's a lot happening in the political space in Nigeria, but we have two stories we are tracking today. First, the PDP faction names new acting national chairman amidst ongoing crisis. Plus, we've got Governor Fubara heading to Supreme Court as appeal court affirms pro-Wike lawmakers. Now, joining me here in the studio today to discuss this is Barrister Darlington Agomwa, a social and political critic and a lawyer. You're welcome to Political Voice this evening, Barrister.
Good evening, Kayla. How are you today?
Doing well. It's good to have you back again. Also, we have Mr. Nick Agule, chartered accountant, oil and gas expert, and a political analyst. Well, we'll have Mr. Nick Agule joining us shortly. But before we get right into these stories, let's take a global overview of happenings around the world. The United Nations announced plans to hold a plenipotentiary conference in 2026 to negotiate a convention on crimes against humanity following a resolution spearheaded by Mexico and the Gambia. The proposal has garnered support from 86 member states, signaling broad commitment to advancing global standards for addressing these grave offenses. Addressing the UN Sixth Committee, Nasir Ahmadi Faik, Afghanistan's representative, emphasized the pressing need for a codified international standard to prevent and punish crimes against humanity. This announcement comes as Afghan women and girls face escalating restrictions under Taliban rule. Recent decrees have prohibited women from appearing or speaking publicly and barred girls and women from education and employment. The European Parliament recently passed a resolution condemning these policies, urging the EU to recognize the Taliban's actions as gender apartheid. U.S. Special Envoy Rina Amiri echoed these concerns, noting that the Taliban's policies are contributing to widespread mental health issues among Afghan women and girls. During the Sixth Committee session on Thursday, delegates debated the path towards a legally binding instrument based on the draft articles. While there is substantial support, some nations expressed reservations and pointed out divergent views, indicating that the road to consensus may be challenging. In Africa, the National Youth Organizer of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, George Opare Addo, alongside Chairman of the National Youth Working Committee, Okai Minta, has made a significant donation to boost campaigning efforts in the eastern region. During a stakeholder meeting held at Pedwase in Akwapim South Municipality, the youth wing donated 175,000 Ghana cedis and 44,000 posters to each of the 33 constituencies in the region, stating that this initiative aims to strengthen grassroots support for the party ahead of the upcoming general election. Opare Addo highlighted the importance of enhancing resources in the eastern region, traditionally a challenging stronghold for the NDC. He emphasized the youth wing's commitment to mobilizing resources and intensifying campaign efforts to secure victories in the region. The vice presidential candidate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agemang, praised the youth leadership for their timely intervention and urged all party members to ramp up efforts as the campaign reaches a critical phase. She called for unity and focus in delivering the party's message to the electorate ahead of the December polls. We'll now go on a short break, and when we return, we'll get right into today's topics of discussion. Stay tuned. Glad to have you back on Political Voice this evening. Now to our first topic of discussion. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has appointed Alhaji Yayari Ahmed Mohammed as its new acting national chairman. This decision comes after the suspension of Ambassador Ilia Damagum, who previously held the position by a faction of the party. Honorable Debo Olugwagba, the party's national publicity secretary, confirmed the appointment. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has restrained the National Executive Committee and Board of Trustees of the party from removing Damagum as the acting national chairman of the party. Now, Barrister, I think we could almost call this week a week that has to do with the PDP crisis. You know, I had you yesterday, we spoke about the PDP situation. Now we're back again with the imbroglio within the PDP. It has worsened now because a faction of the NWC of the party suspended Ambassador Damagun, who is the national chairman of the party, and replaced him with Alhaji Yayari Mohammed. And we also saw Justice Peter Lifu's judgment today, making a restraining order against the NEC and other organs of the party from removing Damagum as the chairman. Or the court also stated that some sections or certain sections of the party's constitution made the removal of Damagum unlawful until the party convention is held. And that being that he is from the northern zone, which has the mandate to produce a national chairman, nobody can remove him until his tenure is over. Now, Barrister, just yesterday, we read that the NWC of the party, they were to hold an emergency meeting wherein certain anti-Wike persons were to be suspended. Now, today, Damagum has been removed. And now we've known that the crisis in PDP will boil over if it's not handled well. With these divisions, court orders, and subversions, what is really, really ahead for the PDP?
That PDP is in this mess. And that is because the PDP, they were not proactive when this thing was...
escalating.
Yes, when it was coming up. When it was in its infancy, they didn't take it serious. And now, look at what they have caused themselves. Because Wike told the whole world that he wrote to leadership of PDP when he wanted to join APC. And they all approved it. On what ground would they do that? It's like sleeping in bed with your enemy. How do you think we pan out? There will be no peace in that bed now. So they made a mistake when they allowed Wike to go to APC without thinking of what he did to them during the election. For a man who betrayed your party in his state during the election, why would you approve for him to go and join your opposition, your enemy, so to say, your political enemy? Is that not where this thing started?
Yeah.
Good. If you had men in PDP who would say no, this is a yes. From the beginning, Wike would not have a place to stand today and be doing what he's doing. You can see. You can see. That's why it's always good to have elders in any environment who will advise the youth so that they will not put their hands inside fire.
Barrister, with the situation in PDP, the crisis in imbroglio in PDP, we keep seeing conflicting judgments, court judgments. Now, speaking of conflicting court judgments, you do recall that recently, just before the Rivers State local government elections, Justice Abdullahi Bawa Faskari of the Katsina State High Court dismissed the suit seeking the removal of the same Damagum, stating it is an internal party affair. I mean, what does this conflicting judgment say about our judiciary?
That is it. The judge that gave that order
stated
it's as if he didn't know what the electoral law says concerning internal party wrangling. Why would he make such an order? That means the court wants to impose leadership on the party, which is wrong. So you can see now that order does not hold water. If anybody goes to court, they will vacate it immediately because the court doesn't have the power to issue such order. So if the judge did, that means it's either the judge is biased or he does not know what the law says. Yes, it's either he's biased.
I mean, what does this say about our judiciary now? I mean, we have judges stating different things, even upholding lower court judgments and many more. What does this really say about the judiciary?
It shows that we no longer have judges that you can trust their opinion on any matter. We now have judges who are politically biased. Unfortunately, this court is supposed to be the last hope of the common man, where the commonest man in the land can go and get justice. It's no longer like that. It's like our courts now is for the highest bidder. After all, the last CJN said it. Adiwala.
Yes.
When he was leaving, he said it. You can imagine, if somebody at that height knows the corruption going on in the court, then who are you to say otherwise? So it's unfortunate. Anybody who can come and defend what the courts are doing today, that person is being deceitful, because it's very clear. A judge told you that this is an internal party matter, you have no rights. Then you now gave order saying that it should be otherwise, that nobody should remove somebody. As if that place is his birthright. You can imagine. Are you telling me that these two judges, they don't know, or the one that said that nobody should talk to or remove Damago, he doesn't know what the law is? He knows. He knows. He's just been, maybe he's interpreting the
mischief. According to, quickly, Barrister, before we, move to Nick Agule, the court stated that certain sections of the party's constitution made the removal of Damagum unlawful until the party convention is held. Well, the party convention will be holding sometime later this month. Well, do you see this, the NWC taking this action further and finally removing Damagum as the chairman?
Please, no position is sacrosanct. No position is sacrosanct. A president can be impeached if he is going against the rule of law or he's committing a serious crime in office. He can be impeached, or he's committing acts of corruption. So if a president can be impeached, then how come a party chairman cannot be removed if the party deemed it that he is working against their party? If the party sees him as an enemy of that party, then you say he must remain in office because of what?
All right.
Every law has their own limitations and exceptions. Every law. They say freedom of speech, fine. Does it mean that you can go about insulting everybody because you have freedom of speech? No. You see. So the court that made that ruling, he didn't look very closely the reasons they adduced for removing the man.
All right.
Because it's obvious this man has been working against PDP. The signs are there, the facts are there.
Well, speaking of that, let's welcome Mr. Nick Agule, chartered accountant and a political analyst, to the show. You're welcome, Mr. Nick Agule.
Much, and good evening to you and my co-panelists and our viewers.
Good evening, Mr. Agule. Welcome. Well, you do already know what we're talking about with the PDP crisis. It seems to keep exacerbating by the day, with a faction of the NWC in the party suspending Ambassador Damagum as the chairman and replacing him with Alhaji Yayari Mohammed. Now, with the imbroglio and the crisis currently bedeviling PDP, is the party not getting into extinction, if I may ask?
So, thank you very much for that question. Incidentally, this morning, I was in the studios of a TV station here in Abuja. I was speaking about the economy when their reporter started to call from the PDP secretariat. So they posed my interview to be able to allow him to file in his report. And he said that he was at the party's secretariat, the PDP national headquarters, and that everything was calm, nothing seemed to be gone awry. But it was not long after I resumed my discussion that they again posed the conversation. This time, the Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP was on the phone, and he spoke to the audience while I was live there in the studios. And what he said was that the National Working Committee of the party met, I think either yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, and they took disciplinary measures by suspending from office the National Publicity Secretary and one other officer, maybe the legal advisor, I can't remember the other one. And that the moment after this suspension happened, the National Publicity Secretary then went and issued this statement, suspending the
chairman,
acting national chairman, and all of that. So if I can go with the veracity of the information that the Deputy National Publicity Secretary had put forward, it shows that possibly the National Publicity Secretary, who is now on suspension, is using his position to make an announcement, and that this announcement doesn't really hold water because it has to take the rest members of the National Working Committee, and even the National Working Committee on its own can probably remove officers from office and replace them. It has to take a National Executive Council meeting. So we will see what happens in the next few days. I think there is already a case, an injunction that has been ordered by the famous Justice Lifo on the matter. But going to your, so that is just a background. So going to your question,
Yes.
whether the kind of happenings in the PDP is not a signal of a death knell on the party, I would say very much so, because if we go back a few years, you will realize that in the run-up to the 2015 elections, some faction of the PDP broke away from the PDP and formed together with Buhari's party and Tinubu's party what we now know as the APC. And then together with some faction of APGA as well. That was 2015. And because of that breakup and every other thing that happened, the incumbent PDP president, President Goodluck Jonathan, actually lost election as an incumbent, the first time that has happened in our history. Fast forward to 2019, it was the same thing. We had PDP members such as Rotimi Amechi, who sided with Buhari to win his second term in office and all of that. Fast forward to 2023, it was the same thing. We had a group of 5 PDP governors, famously tagging themselves the G5.
Yes.
They also, abandoned the PDP, causing all sorts of insurrectionist issues within the PDP. And in fact, they were not even united amongst themselves, because, someone like former Governor Nyesom Wike pitched his tent with the APC, the presidential candidate, the then presidential candidate, now President Tinubu. And then someone like Governor Otom of Benue State pitched his tent with the Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. And now, since the election has happened, PDP has lost ground. You discover that the PDP...
All right, it seems like we'll have some technical difficulties there.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, Mr. Agule.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please go on.
Yeah, the PDP, since they shoved aside Yochi Ayu
as the chairman, we seem to be experiencing some difficulties with Mr. Agule, but we hope he joins us shortly. Now, Barrister, speaking of, I believe you heard what Mr. Agule had to say concerning about the antecedent that led to Debo Ologunagba, who is the PDP's National Publicity Secretary's statement that was released today, stating that Iliya Damagum is no longer their party chairman, and now it's a Yayari. Well, thankfully, we have Mr. Agule that gave us that live experience. But speaking of Damagum has been talked about by stakeholders and observers as being in the payroll of certain forces like Wike and even the APC, as such did not possess the pedigree to move the party forward in a united way. I mean, with the current happenings in the PDP, can we say those allegations are justified about Damagum?
Now, if the National Working Committee of PDP came together and said they want to remove a certain person because of anti-party activities, I think it is right, according to their constitution. It is right. The only person who may not have a locus on this matter is the other factional section of PDP who have no ground. You know, they have no ground to take any action. Because who elected this other person who claimed to be now a spokesperson for PDP? Who suspended Ologwagwa? Ologwagwa was unanimously elected in a PDP convention.
Yes.
And that convention have now started to remove him. So which other faction have the authority or the order to remove anybody? The people that remove them are good. They have their reason, and the reason is very clear. In fact, I was even wondering why they have not done it since. Remember during their last National Working Committee meeting, everybody thought that
it was
they were going to change something, but
change.
Wike stood behind Damagu, and the thing ended in a fiasco, so to say. So I don't know why PDP is being so weak, so to say.
I mean,
they have been so weak.
And that's the question that many netizens, citizens, analysts are asking. Can PDP eventually form a formidable party and opposition with this crisis?
Why not?
You believe they can?
Why not? If not, yes, they can. They can rise from their ashes and then, you know, build the party again. Because one of the reasons why PDP are gone the way it went is because they were not selecting their members. Some people came into the PDP to destroy it, and they were not worthy of these members. I remember when one Mohammed Abacha wanted to join APC in Kano to contest the governorship election. APC drove him away. They said no, they don't want to see him. In fact, Buhari stood against him. Even though it is a freedom of association, there are persons you don't want to associate with.
Barrister, you spoke about founding fathers and elders of the party. Now, Atiku Abubakar is the highest PDP member, currently having held the position of a vice president. Yes. Now, why has he not rallied other elders to settle the differences and this crisis in the party?
If you check, Atiku is not happy the way PDP members betrayed him. He's still nursing the injury he suffered. You see, there's no way he can be happy. But then, Atiku did himself in. He was the one that caused his problem because he is not a tactical politician.
Okay.
Tactical in the sense that he didn't know how to rally the PDP he inherited because he is the highest member of that party now. If he knows his own yours, they should be rallying around him by now. They should be rallying around him. But
Barrister,
because of his style of politics, they don't reckon with him. And so the man is being careful. He suffered an embarrassment before. He doesn't want it to continue. That's why he's just watching from behind or from afar. More so, when some members have now taken side, you know, with Wike, who is an arch enemy of Atiku. Atiku doesn't want to be embarrassed once more. I think with his age and everything, he's you know, bigger than Wike. But it seems that Wike is calling the shots.
Barrister, speaking of Atiku, quickly, let's try to digress here. You do recall that Atiku has come out severally to state that he will keep running for elections. He's even given references of Western leaders that kept running for elections at an old age. And he says he has come out severally to mention it.
Including
right
Paul
now.
Biya.
Yes, Paul. Yes.
Who's almost on wheelchair. Go ahead.
Yes, well, we've seen Atiku speak on this, and he's under the PDP. If he wants to recontest for presidency in 2027, is it not going to be under the same PDP? And does he think they will be strong enough, and he will be strong enough as an opposition to win the elections?
Atiku only come out during the election. That has been his style. Each time he lose the election, he will either join to APC or he will rehabilitate to Dubai, waiting for another 4 years for him to show up. That's why I told you that because of his style of politics, nobody reckon with him in PDP. He doesn't have the staying power, you know. Because I can't see him going back to APC now, he can't. He can't. And he doesn't have that integrity and that clout to join a new party and then make something out of it, just like Obi did with Labour Party.
Okay.
He doesn't have that integrity. So these are the baggages he's carrying. And if Atiku knows his own news, he should be rallying around the PDP by now, knowing fully well that that would be his vehicle to power. You know? But like I told you, I don't know how to put it. His style of politics is like, he's an opportunist. Whenever there is a primaries, he will come in, use his money to bamboozle PDP members. They will give him the ticket. And when they give him the ticket, that's the end of it.
All right. We still have Mr. Aguilar with us. Well, Mr. Aguilar, now looking at the announcement made by Debo Oluwaba, the National Publicity Secretary of the party, after this announcement made, do you think they will reverse themselves after the judgment made by Justice Peter Alifu, or do you still see them standing on Alhaji Yayari Mohammed as the national chairman?
Well, it depends on what the PDP itself wants. The judges are only doing their work, delivering judgments, but it's about the PDP. What do they actually want? I think that's the inquisition that the party as a whole needs to make at this point in time. Because if I go back to the answer that I gave you to your question, the PDP is not doing well. It's not doing well as a party. The point I was trying to make is that ever since Yochia Ayu was eased out as substantive national chairman, the PDP has not had a national chairman. Ambassador Damagun is just acting. The PDP has not summoned a National Executive Committee meeting. The PDP has no plan for a national convention to elect leaders. The statement that was put today by the National Publicity Secretary remains to be seen whether that is the position of the entire National Working Committee of the PDP. The next few days will show what it is. But definitely, you don't want to also rule out the former governor Nyesom Wike factor, former governor Otom factor. Let's not forget, someone like former governor Otom, if you ask him today, he will still tell you he's a PDP member. But this is a governor, a former governor that was, quoted to have said, perhaps, was it not even last year or early this year, that his candidate for the 2027 presidential election is the incumbent president, President Tinubu. To have a senior member of a party to make such a statement several years ahead of even the presidential election, he didn't even wait for President Tinubu to deliver good governance upon which he will have a conviction. I mean, Governor Otom will have the conviction that this man should carry on with the good work he's doing. He didn't even wait for that. That's to tell you that this is a party that is in disarray. And part of the reason why this party can be in disarray is simply because we're dealing with politics here. And those who are in APC, which is the ruling party at the center, they are fully aware that the weaker the opposition parties are, the better the chances of the APC to win again the presidential election.
Mr. Aguilar, speaking of that, I mean, can we say ex-governor Wike's grouse is only about the zoning issue arising from the 2023 presidential elections? Or is he playing to weaken the PDP in order to give the ruling party, like you mentioned, a second term without much opposition?
I mean, if you look at the evidence of it, you can clearly see that former Governor Nyesom Wike is not working for the interest of the PDP. Because, of course, it doesn't benefit him to work for the interest of the PDP, because under the APC government, he's a minister of the Federal Republic, Federal Capital Territory. So why would he not want the APC to continue in office so that he, Nyesom Wike, will continue to be a minister? And if you also look at the fact that the last time the PDP had a meeting, I think it was a National Working Committee meeting. I can't remember if it was NEC, at which a part of the party were resolute on trying to remove Ambassador Damagun as
Damagum, yes,
acting
yes,
chairman.
yes. There was a former.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And the feelers that we got from people who attended the meeting was that people who were to object to Ambassador Damagun continuing in office in acting capacity were not even giving the floor to make their point. You know, and if you look at some of the statements that Minister Wike says, like, you know, he has put one lexicon in Nigeria now, put fire. You know, where did that emanate from? It was governors of the PDP that went down to Rivers State, to Port Harcourt, to lend support to their colleague who is embattled. And Governor Wike said he's going to put fires in those states. And those states are PDP states.
Yeah.
So you can't say you're a member of a party and you are threatening to put fires in the states that are being controlled by your party. So definitely, the weaker the PDP, the weaker the Labour Party, and the weaker perhaps the outsider, the NMPP of Kwankwaso, the better the chances of the APC. So if you say that there are sponsors, sponsored insurrectionists within these parties that are ensuring that these parties don't deliver on these parties don't get their ass together to become strong enough and prepare for 2027, there could be a currency to that. There could be evidence to show that is also a possibility. And in politics, everything is possible.
Okay. Thank you very much for that one, Mr. Agule. I'll take that as your final thoughts on this topic of discussion. Over to you, Barrister. What are your final thoughts on this topic before we move on?
PDP must wake up. Because if you look at the genesis of PDP, they started from G34, which was midwife by Ekweme. And they laid the foundation for this democracy you are enjoying today. How could they just go extinct because of one man? It will be a shame and an embarrassment. They should reinvent PDP. At least they are more moderate than APC. Because we are seeing it now that APC cannot save Nigeria. If PDP can come back, I think the people will look at their past antecedents and then say, okay, let us give you another chance. That is the more reason why PDP must find a way to organize itself and come back to reckoning. If they allow Wike to destroy them, in fact, at the end of the day, the APC will now make a mockery of both Wike and PDP. That's the truth. Because the question is, if Wike could do this to his own party, the party that made him, what makes him think that APC will trust him? It's not possible. That's what they don't know. Look at all the people they use. Did they dump them? From Amechi to, who is that person now? So many of them that you know of. I don't even want to start naming them. There are many of them who have been disappointed by APC. And these were people who were dancing around them and all that. With the performance of APC in office, PDP need to take advantage of it and come back to reckoning. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
If they fail to do that, they should not blame anybody.
All right. Thank you very much for that one, Barrister Darlington. And moving on to a second topic of discussion. Nyesom Wike, the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory's political camp, erupted in celebration as the Court of Appeal in Abuja ruled in favor of Martin Amaewhule, affirming him as the rightful Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly RSHA. The ruling also declared that Amaewhule's faction of the Assembly should have passed the 2024 budget. The Rivers State Governor, Fubara, however, has not taken the ruling lightly. His administration immediately announced plans to appeal the decision of the Supreme Court and filed for a stay of execution. Governor Fubara, through a statement signed by the Rivers State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Danagogo Iboroma SAN, expressed confidence that the Court of Appeal may have ruled on an issue that was not properly before it. The Court of Appeal dismissed the governor's appeal and upheld the judgment of the lower court, which had earlier recognized Amaewhule as a legitimate speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The court went further, stating that any expenditures made by Governor Fubara without the appropriation of Amaewhule's assembly were illegal. The court also criticized the governor for what it described as a blatant disregard for court orders. The governor of Rivers State has the passion to disobey court orders, which is unbecoming of someone with good culture, the court disclosed. The court also imposed a fine of 500,000 naira against the governor, reinforcing the view that the appeal was bereft of merit. Now, Barrister Darlington, we're back to the Rivers State situation and the Rivers State crisis now, where the former governor Wike and his camp are, well, we can say in cloud nine after the Court of Appeals judgment that we spoke about yesterday, recognizing Martin Amaewhule as the legitimate speaker. Now, with the judgment of the Court of Appeal, just as we said some time ago on this program, it is clear that the last has not been heard about the River State power tussle. What's next for Fubara, if I may ask?
Yeah, he still have another window of appeal. He has to appeal that judgment because
which he has done.
Yes, because it's not right in law. You have a pending matter which should have been taking precedent. That is to determine the position of the defected lawmakers. Because if you are saying that Fubara should present a budget, I don't think that thing was on the table before the court. It wasn't. It wasn't. So they should have resolved the issue of the defected lawmaker, which is even the real issue.
Yes.
So that Fubara will now know which person to present the budget, if at all something like that can happen. The court just, I don't know how they overlooked the pertinent question, and which is the position of the lawmaker that defected. And you are now calling for a budget that have only 2 months to expire. That they should introduce it to who? Which assembly is the court talking about? The defected lawmakers. You have not determined their position. The section 109 that you should even look at and pass a judgment or a decision, you have not looked at it. And you are telling me that the people have not defected. So on what ground will Fubara present any budget to anybody? That is the question here. The budget has been passed and it has been run. The budget has assumed the life of its own. Are you telling me now that Fubara should now go back and all the money they are paid to contractors, all the salary they have been paying, all the other expenses they have been making, they should record the money? Are you telling me that if Fubara should have waited? They should have waited up till now before there will be governance in Rivers State. I mean, it's not possible. It can't be possible. He has been elected, so the state must move on. The state must move on. I think the lawmakers, they have regretted their action. That's what happened when you are not your own man. Wike have put them in a quandary because whether they like it or not, they will never become Rivers State Assembly members. Whether they like it or not. Even if the Supreme Court rules in their favor, it cannot be possible because Fubara cannot work with them. It's as simple as that. Fubara cannot work with them. They don't even have the temerity to impeach him because the Attorney General of the state, whom they're supposed to write a letter to constitute a panel to probe the allegation against Fubara, is with Fubara. So they can't impeach him. It's not possible. They can't. It's not possible. So that judgment is neither here nor there. It will not be effective.
Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Agule, you heard what the barrister here had to say. He said that judgment is either here or there. It's not effective. Yes, now the governor, Fubara, has gone on appeal. But what is the long-term prospect for him to last this battle, looking at the way the judiciary and our courts have been going?
Well, the unfortunate thing that is happening here is that the people of Rivers State, when they went to the polls in 2023, This is not what they voted for. This is not what they bargained for. They voted for good governance. They voted for politicians who will be leaders, who will deliver the dividends of democracy to them. Rivers State is the oil producing headquarters of Nigeria. It receives a lot of allocations, both from the federal government and its own IGR. And the state, if governed well, should be one of the best places to live in Nigeria. And now, what we are seeing here is totally and contrarily different from what the people of Rivers State bargained for. And the area that this thing is sorted out, the better. Because Governor Nyesom Wike needs to understand that you were a governor of a state does not make that state to become your personal property, whereby you think that if somebody is expropriating that property, you are going to use everything to come against the person. Rivers State is not the personal property of Governor Nyesom Wike. He has served his term. He's now minister of the FCT. He should focus on the FCT and everything that he's doing there. That aside, going to the legal brickbat, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that this particular case that has just been adjudicated upon by the appeal court is a case as regards the qualification of the State Assembly members led by Martin Amaewhule to pass the appropriation bill or not. So it is the appropriation side of the case that has just been adjudicated upon. There is still another case, if I remember well, as to whether Martin Amaewhule and his people are actually members of the Rivers State Assembly.
Yes. So
it's at the end of the day that when all these cases settle, that we are going to know what it is. Because, for instance, if the case that is trying to determine whether they are members of the Rivers State House of Assembly comes up and the decision is against them up to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court says you are not members of the Rivers State Assembly, then the case that has just been decided by the appeal court will be null and void because you cannot be deciding a case and talking about rights of people who are not
Mr. Amaewhule, the court did not only awarded costs against Fubara, but also berated the governor for disobeying court orders. So in all of this, are you saying the governor can or will survive this onslaught?
Well, somebody who has gone on appeal cannot be said to be disobeying court orders. For instance, as the case has now gone on appeal to the Supreme Court, the status quo will be maintained until the Supreme Court decides. So if Governor Fubara today does not carry the state appropriation bill to go and submit to the Martin Amaewhule-led State Assembly, does not amount to disobedience of a court process. Because look, if someone is being convicted of a crime, and he's on appeal, you can't go and dump him in prison to say, oh, start serving your prison sentence. So the same thing in a civil case like this. If you go to court and say that the house that I'm living in belongs to you, and I go on appeal, it doesn't mean that I should vacate the house for you to come in. No, until that appeal is decided at the highest court, appellate court, I will continue to live in the house. So I can't see where Governor Fubara could have disobeyed court orders, but let's not forget that these judgments are coming from federal government-owned courts, federal government courts, either the Federal High Court or the Appeal Court, which is also a federal court. And we know that there's a powerful man in Abuja who can remote control anything, including judges, to give him the kind of decisions that he wants. But let us also be frank. Just like my co-panelist said, even if we say Governor Fubara loses this particular case that the appeal has just happened, Governor Fubara loses the case that these people are not members of the State Assembly, still, those assembly members are going to find it difficult to work in Rivers State. You know why? Governor Fubara, let me just make this last point. Governor Fubara is a first-class graduate of former Governor Nyesom Wike's school of roguery. So he's actually showing that he learned very well under his mentor, and this is exactly what former Governor Nyesom Wike will do.
All right.
And Fubara will do it.
All right. Thank you very much for that one, Mr. Agule. I'll take that as your final thoughts on this topic. Finally, barrister, some legal experts like yourself argue that the Supreme Court has laid down principles guiding the Rivers State House of Assembly decampment by the Amaewhule camp as unlawful. Now, one of the principles is that the party from where they are decamping is in crisis. The Rivers State PDP was not in crisis as at the time the Amaewhule group left. I mean, what changed?
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. That was one of the reasons why they were in a quandary, because they didn't convince the court that there was crisis in PDP. They couldn't. They couldn't, because the facts are there. The facts are out there. And that was why Wike is trying to create that crisis. Maybe people didn't understand what is going on. That was why Wike is trying to create this crisis, so that it will now consolidate their point or their evidence in court. You see, it's not as if that they don't know. They know what they're doing. It's not that the other party, the main PDP people, they didn't see where Wike was going with all these shenanigans. But already the court have ruled on that matter. They can't go back again and say, okay, you can see now. You can see now that there is crisis. No, as at the time they defected, there was no crisis in PDP. As at that time. That was why when they couldn't sustain that argument in court, they quickly want to go back. And that was when Fubara said, no, you have left, you have left. That was the problem. You see, it was when they could not sustain that argument in court. That was where they started looking for a way to see, where a court that could give them a soft landing. And that is why the court has been speaking from both sides of their mouth. I mean, the facts are there. These people defected. And during the first ruling by Bentham, or what's the name of that judge? Bentham, who said that they have not defected, but could not adduce any reason for that judgment.
Yes.
And I'm asking, is it how the courts are run? That you go to court, it is the prayers you ask for that the court will give you. But in this case, they have not asked for any prayer. Just because they are being teleguided by somebody, they now say, no, they should go, they have not defected. Did the people tell you that they have not defected? I was expecting the judge to say, oh yeah, come. We saw evidence. The people have admitted that you have defected. What happened? Why do you now want to go back to the same place you say you have not defected? These are issues that will be resolved in court. And if these issues are not resolved, then there is bias. There are serious bias. I don't see how they are going to manufacture that crisis in PDP. I don't see how. Except what they are doing now, that they created a faction at the national level. That's what they are playing at, nothing else. But it will not help their case, because even if Supreme Court rule in their favor, they can't work with Fubara. And they cannot impeach Fubara.
Okay.
They can't.
Right. Because
the Attorney General of the state is with Fubara. He's the one who will constitute a panel. It is that panel that will say, yes, there is a reason to this man has committed all this offense.
All right.
So it's not possible. You can see now that the game Wike is trying to play will not work.
Okay.
Fubara will remain there and finish his first tenure and even contest again if he wants to.
All right.
The only people that lose out here is these lawmakers who are being teleguided as if they don't have a mind of their own. They are the ones that have lost out. Because right now, they are not doing any lawmaking in Rivers State. They are not.
Thank you very much, Barrister Darlington. Well, that is all we can take on A Political Voice today. Many thanks, Barrister Darlington Agomo, for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Kela.
All right. And thank you to you, Mr. Agule, Nick Agule, for gracing us with your analysis today.
Thank you, and a nice weekend to all our viewers.
All right. Well, this is where we draw the curtain on Political Voice today. Many thanks for watching. Do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms at VOP TV Live and on YouTube, we're at Voice of the People TV. Political Voice will make a return next week. I am Kayla Abraham. Good evening.